How does Contentful help my business with generative engine optimization? If you've been following along with our AI search series, you've probably been wondering about this question. So far, Josh has given us the background on GEO that we need. We've looked at the various LLMs and how they're different, and you've gotten Josh's 3 playbooks for GEO success. In this episode, Josh and I will break down how Contentful helps you get your content AI ready for GEO by building on what you're already doing. Let's dive in.
Contentful's foundations are built with content modeling, which creates structured content and then lends itself perfectly to structured data. So this is really bliss for bots when we're talking about organization and allowing them to understand the entities that we're pointing at and the different pieces of schema and structured data that we need to inform the bots. Additionally, Contentful out of the box is very fast. So this satisfies both SEO for Core Web Vitals, but it also makes AI bots very happy. And if you pair it with one of our optimal tech partners as well, it's absolutely fire speed-wise. With Contentful, content is centrally managed. So not only does this help reduce duplicate content, which is an issue for SEO and can at times be a penalty, it helps with consistency of messaging. So that, as you will remember from earlier, is a key tactic with generative engine optimization, so that when you're showing up in the conversation, it's the messaging that you want to communicate to your users, and it's not something old or something that you haven't had consistently across all of your various owned media and assets. Next, you want to supercharge your content creation by using our dynamic elements capabilities and then pairing them with AI actions, for instance, which enables content generation and optimization automation. So this really allows you to build content truly at scale. And then finally, flexibility. With Contentful, you can break traditional CMS constraints and you can organize your content to optimize perfectly for GEO processing.
A lot of these benefits are ones that are sort of built into not just Contentful's sort of product, but really our architectural concept, right? Is by consolidating those things in what's traditionally called a headless CMS, and now we're part of we're sort of leaning into a little more of, hey, we're a part of your composable DXP, in the future. One thing that I do want to point out, I'm glad you brought this slide up because I would love to tell this story, but we also have. We had our spring launch, and a lot of these new features where we went into detail on those things like AI actions and workflows and stuff like that. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes. The last slide that you had of the technical SEO challenges, so those were pretty paramount for this customer coming in. I happened to work with this customer, and they were able to have some really good outcomes from this. I got to work with them a little bit before and after. And so before, they had this page, one of their primary landing pages, right? It did not score well when I did the test independently. I sort of scanned it. I said, I wanted to see where they're at. I'm like, is this really, how bad is this pain? You'll see that they got, the scores were bad. It was taking almost a whole second just to being blocked before they even would render anything. And then by the time they relaunched, and they were able to do this quite quickly, by the way, they were able to raise that score up to a B. Much better performance, going from 55 to 79%. Now, this is the sort of technical, this is all about speed, right? They were able to, and you could read more about it on our site, they were able to get a lot more value out of it in other ways too, but their SEO performance was much elevated, much improved. What I tell customers, they're like, well, what does Contentful actually do for our SEO, right? Well, it does a couple of things. First of all, it really just helps you support these best practices, the EEAT stuff, the being fast, right? Which your customers love. It means they click around more. It means they engage more. It means they buy more, right? There's a lot of studies. Walmart had some studies about that. For every, For every 100 milliseconds faster, you got 1% lift, something like that, up to a certain point. But another big thing is really just, and we talk about this in the SEO guide, is really the flexibility of Contentful's content modeling. I really love it. I highlighted a few things here just to give a sense for like how it works, but you can totally create your own content model and be empowered as a marketer. You don't have to call your developers for that. You don't have to wait. You can just go do that, and structure your metadata the way you want. Not only for SEO, but other things like internal search. Like let's say you're using something like Algolia on your site, or you have mobile, channels or things like that. You can structure and reuse that metadata the way you want for your business. You're not limited there. So it's very flexible there, and that's one way we help with this problem.
I feel very fortunate to have our website that I do marketing for on Contentful. So we do have a nice benefit there
And
of
that's
getting to use Contentful regularly.
Well, yeah, but that's been a journey, right? Like when I first came, and maybe when both of us joined, I've seen little glimpses. Like our own content model wasn't as efficient as it needed to be, right? There was a lot of cruft there. Over the last year or so, I know you've been involved in a really big rebranding and sort of refactoring project at Contentful, right? But that adaptability, we're getting to dog food that ourselves. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. We're becoming customer zero and getting to try out some of the new functionality, including AI actions, which we are using throughout the site to build content and to optimize our SEO as well in terms of generating alt text, meta descriptions in different fields, and even localized content. But yeah, there's a lot of capabilities, but we've certainly come a long way in terms of our own Contentful instance. It's really interesting that this study just came out from Ahrefs, and what they found was that AI sends roughly the same amount of traffic as Reddit. This puts things into perspective, I think, in terms of we should be questioning whether or not we're overinvesting in AI versus other channels, or putting too much emphasis in this, and is doing traditional SEO enough, and then we should be paying attention to these channels where our audience is. So we really do need to determine first where our audience is, and then invest resources there. So there are a lot of the conversations about our brand happening in AI, then it will live up to that hype, right? Then the return, should be significant. But if the conversations aren't happening there, and they're happening in other platforms or other areas, we need the return could be minimal. So it's important to note that difference.
Let's recap. We saw how Contentful helps you model your content to make it easier for you to surface that structured data that AI search engines want. We talked about performance too, and how Contentful's fast delivery APIs help you build high-performance web experiences that both robots and people love to use. We also took a look at Contentful's new AI Actions feature that helps you scale your content creation efforts while ensuring that your brand voice comes through. In addition, we also looked at how GEO impacts other marketing channels like Reddit and YouTube, which carry more weight than they did before. In our final episode of the AI Search series, Josh is going to give you his predictions for 2025 and leave you with 5 takeaways that will complete your knowledge of SEO and GEO for the days ahead. Don't miss our last episode coming up next.